Why do you keep following me around? Look.
All right, welcome to the Franchise Time Machine. This is a continuation of an experiment that we started yesterday. We did part one yesterday, and we're going to do part two today. There are 4 parts to this experiment. So this is part two. They all have to do with the polo grounds. So as a reminder, these are the dimensions of the 1952 polo grounds. And there are lots of different versions of the polo grounds in terms of both dimensions and ballpark factors in the game. But I prefer using the 1952 version because it's kind of like this is the version I think of whenever I think of the polo grounds. I think I didn't realize there were earlier versions where, for example, it's not as symmetrical. So it's less of this bathtub. The right field kind of came in a bit more. But this is the version I think of. This is the version I would use because I think it most lends itself to these theories that we've heard about how to roster teams for the polo grounds. Ezra Denny, thank you for the raid. As always, enjoyed your stream. Missed the very little tail end at the finish there while I was setting up, but I have a mic. Do you mean get a camera? I have a mic. I don't know what D-Block's talking about. All right, so here's what we're doing tonight. This is part two of an experiment from last night, where we did. Last night was this one. We did. Does it matter if power hitters are pull hitters or not in the polo grounds? And we used the 1952 polo grounds. We took it from the game, directly from the base game. So there's no chance of any like hidden attributes that we didn't get if we just copy stuff over from the various ballpark designers that are on the forums. Their stuff is great. I love it. The visuals are awesome. The ballpark factors seem to be correct. But I also want to make sure that, if there are any hidden attributes or anything, that we're getting all those. So I'm just grabbing everything straight from the 1952 game, exported the ballpark, and then we imported the ballpark into our average league. Oh, D-Block, I just do that so you have to lean in and pay more attention to me. Um, I was a little surprised. It did seem to matter. The pull hitters did have hit more home runs, and that was the case for both when we gave hitters maximum power, and it was also the case when we left them at average power. So I did think that was interesting because one of the things we talk about in our experiments a lot is there are things that are true in baseball, in actual baseball, but the only way they become true in a simulation like OOTP is if the developers code it that way. And so if you look at the ballpark, right? Of course, if you're a dead pull hitter, you're going to hit more home runs because you hit them right down the line. But if you look at the ballpark factors in the game, there's VL and there's VR. There's no mention of pull or down the line. It's just, it looks like a blanket left-handed, right-handed factor. But the way the simulation played out, it does seem like if you're a pull hitter and you're taking advantage of this short porch right down the line, right, 279 down the line, or it's 277 in the game. It's 279 in this diagram. So I don't know. One of them might be a couple feet off. But it does seem like in the game, if you are a pull hitter, you do take advantage of this shorter porch. Right? Because everyone's right-handed, so everyone's hitting to the same um, right-handed ballpark factor, but the pull hitters did tend to hit more home runs. That's funny, Ezra. During COVID, if Rachel was on the Zoom in the other room, when you're on in your room, they could hear you in her stream. That's amazing. Well, let's see. I can turn my mic up a little bit, I think. Let's see. Where's my mic set on? Okay, I can do that. And I can turn it up on OBS. I can do that. Is that better? I turned them up a little bit. Yeah, Clay Dog, that would be interesting to see where the home runs were hit. I do not think OTP records that data though, unfortunately. But I think so. That was one theory we're testing, right? That you want to play pull hitters in the polo grounds. The other theory we want to test, and again, our first two tests would mean the 2023 run environment using the 1952 polo grounds. Next, we'll try them in a dead ball era because that's the other thing I've heard is if it's dead ball, you can turn gap hitters into power hitters if they're pull hitters in a place like the polo grounds. I really want to see if that's the case. Like all this stuff, it makes total sense from a baseball perspective. My only pushback is what's true in baseball only becomes true in the game if it's coded that way. And so far, when we do these experiments, I have been impressed the extent to which those baseball truisms end up working out to be true in the game. Because I don't think it's coincidence. I do think that means it was coded intentionally, which is pretty impressive when you think about some of the nitpicky things we've tested in the past. But this will be interesting because whether or not gap power turns into home runs, if you're a pull hitter in the polo grounds, that would be pretty impressive if that's coded in that way. I mean, impressive to me. I don't know, maybe other people won't find this impressive, but so yeah, tonight we're going to test high gap, normal spray and pull hitters. Will those pull hitters turn gap power hitters into power hitters? And the way we'll tell that is whether or not their team home run total is higher than the other gap hitting teams. So as always, let's go ahead and put a pack giveaway form up so that people can enter. Okay. I'm gonna have to open a new window. Okay, we're gonna copy the form from last night, and then once I get it copied, I'll put it up on the screen. Let me just change the title so it's not confusing to anyone who wanders in, and then we'll go ahead and make the edits. Okay, there we go. Let me put this up on the screen. Okay, there we go. So in tonight's experiment, we'll try to determine in 1920 whether or not having pull hitters result in high gap power, resulting in more home runs than teams with spray or normal fly ball tendencies. We use our complete average league. The ballpark factor stadiums. So all right now, all of our stadiums are completely average, just like all the players. So it's a one ballpark factor all around. We'll replace that with the imported Polo Grounds from 1952. So in one sub league, this will be the gap power sub league. All the batters will have their gap power rating increased to 550. So these will just all change to gap power. Yeah, these acronyms will change to gap normal normal, gap spray spray, gap pull pull. And then this last one is gap extreme ground ball pull, fly ball pull. There is no extreme fly ball pull. So that'll be the difference. And in the average league, the gap power will still be 400, but we'll still have the same pull normal spray profiles. Okay, I can take out this part about averages. We're not doing that for this simulation, so that's fine. Okay, so we do not use prices right rules for our contests here, so you can be over and still win. You also do not have to be present to win. So if you're hanging around now, I'm about to pin this form to the chat. Feel free to fill out a form and then go do whatever you need to do, whether you're going to go to bed or whatever. I still want you to have a chance to win packs, and so you will get them if you win. 7 packs for first place, 3 packs for second place. The OOTP login ID, which is how OOT developments will get you the packs, is case sensitive, so please make sure you type that correctly. Otherwise, you can type your Twitch name in the second field however you want. So we'll use the same questions as last night. Which gap power, and that is probably going to be the neutral league, because I like having the average league be the average batter, so it's easier to remember. Which gap power team will hit the most home runs? And I just need to change this to G. This becomes gap. This becomes G. This becomes gap. Okay. And then the second question is, will that difference be more than 5%? The difference between the team that leads and the second place team. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing for the average. This is just gap. Well, so we will still have Team ASS like we did last night. Okay. And then will the team that leads the average sub league in home runs hit? Okay, so again the question is which team, right? Whether it's normal spray pull or extreme pull, and you get Team ASS merch. Nolan, you can design that if you want. And will the team that leads this be lead by more than 5%? And in both cases last night, the poll teams did have 5% or more home runs than the second place team. So it did feel like a significant increase in home runs over the teams that were not poll hitters. Okay, well, which gap power sub team? So this is of the teams with gap power set to 550. Which one will have the fewest home runs? And then which average sub team will have the fewest home runs? Okay, and then how many homes will be hit the player who leads the gap power league in home runs? Now, the thing to keep in mind is at average power ratings in this league, the league leader usually hits anywhere from like 25 to 30 home runs, right? Because 400 power translates to about 25 home runs. And then there's some just RNG coin flipping where you can get up to like 28, 29, sometimes maybe 30 home runs. So if this gap power thing does turn extra base hits into home runs, if you're a pull hitter in the polo grounds, then you would expect that number to be higher than 28 or 29. Same here. So how many homers will be hit by the player who leads the average league in home runs? Now, in this case, you would then be assuming in the average league, just pull hitters, what would be extra base hits or fly balls would turn into home runs for the pull hitters because they don't have the 550 gap that the other league does. And then how many innings will be pitched by the pitcher who leads the gap power league in innings pitched? Now, the reason this question here is because if you do end up having a bunch of home runs, the pitchers get chased earlier. They can't go deep into games, and they end up having much fewer home runs. So, as an example, last night with the power hitting league, there was no ERA champion because none of the pitchers pitched enough innings to qualify for the ERA title. If you think gap power and pull combinations can lead to more home runs, you might have the same thing happening here. I think the league leader in innings pitched was like in the 140s last night. Let's change this actually because it's a different experiment. I'm going to change this. I'm going to say how many doubles will be hit by the batter who leads the gap power league in doubles. Right? Because it will go right to the heart of the rating, which is, gap power is supposed to be extra base hits. So we'll test for that. I wonder. I kind of want to add another set of questions. I wonder which team is going to actually lead the league in doubles. Where would I put that question? Or do I replace the fewest home runs questions with the most doubles? Oh, Kaki Santa, I forgot. I did say I was going to do that, didn't I? Uh, I guess I could do that on Thursday. I'm gonna dedicate Friday to roster building. Yeah, Kaki Santa, thank you for that reminder. I was going to do pack ripping on Thursday to get cards for PTCS, but I think I will do that 2015 Sims. I think the big problem though is last time I didn't have a baseline of what 2023 looks like with modifiers on, and so our testing made it look like um, certain factors were more important. But I think if we had compared them to a baseline of 2023 in the base game, we would have had different conclusions. Oh, congrats, Kaiki Santa in silver, gold, and diamond this time. Awesome. I might run into you in silver and gold. I start at the low end, so I'm in iron, bronze, silver, and gold. And gold is new to me. I qualified in silver, so I thought I would try qualifying in gold too. And I got into one gold. Yes, if one of us if we run into each other, then one of us will get an extra card in PTCS. That will be worth celebrating. I want to ask a question in here about doubles. I do want to do that. So let me. But yeah, thank you for the reminder about the ballpark factors. Although 2015 is a little less compelling because it's within the OOTP definition of modern. So, Okayaki Santa, thank you for the subscription. Oh, a gift subscription to Nolan. Even nicer. Thank you, Kaiki Santa. All right, Nolan, you're redeeming a subs only discounted game. Nolan, get in touch with me on Discord and we'll figure out which game you want to play and when we'll play you, okay? Thank you for the point redemption. Kaiki Santa, thank you for the gift sub. And this is gonna be the most doubles. I am kind of curious to see how this dynamic works. Okay. I like these questions now. I think we're good to go. All right, Kaiki Santa, thank you for popping in and please make sure you fill out a form even while you're lurking. I'm about to pin it. So let's go ahead and turn the form on so no one has to tell Max that I forgot to do it. And I will post this in the chat. Link to form for tonight's 10-pack giveaway. Let me pin that. Good luck, everybody. Always impressed with the quality of guesses, especially on the numerical ones that we get. All right, so let's go ahead. I think we're ready now to go ahead and set this up in the base game. So let me go ahead and open that up. Let me get out of this terrible, nearly perfect overnight draft I just did. That team is a first round knockout team for sure. Um, there we go. I did consider, do I want to go ahead and no, we'll just start it from scratch. I did consider trying to build it off of last night's quick start, but there's enough differences here that we'll just use the quick start, the regular quick start, and build it from there. Okay, this one is going to be called, last night was Polo Power Polo Gap in 2023 version 1. Create that. Okay, we're not going to take over a specific team. We do need to be in commissioner mode to do this experiment. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename the team so we know, so that I know what attributes I'm changing on each team. It's just a good reminder. Okay, so the average team is going to be the average gap power league. And the teams will be average gap, normal, normal, average gap, spray, spray, average gap, pull, pull, and average gap, extreme, pull, pull. And this will be gap, normal, normal, gap, spray, spray, gap, pull, pull, and gap, extreme, pull, pull. Okay, so then let's make sure our names all came through. Okay, and let's start making these edits. So these first 4 teams, because they're average gap, that means I don't have to make any changes to their batting ratings. It's just to their tendencies. And this will be extreme pull and pull. For some reason, there is not an extreme pull for fly ball. And we're just going to arrow down through the players in the roster, making these edits. So now you'll see why I try to put the form up before we start setting up the experiment, because this stuff can be pretty tedious. And this way, at least people can start putting in their guesses and thinking about their guesses while I do the setup. And so that anyone needs to go to bed can also submit their forms while I'm doing this. But part of the reason I do it on stream is so that people can see, like, how editor works and how they can do their own stuff in editor. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend if you're if you play OTP base game at all, getting into editor and trying some stuff out. It's a fun way to to tweak your OOTP experience the way you want it to be. I mean, if you're just like looking to see how your favorite players' cards are put together, I think it's helpful to understand the game. Even if you're not editing anything, just looking to see how like what the raids look like is kind of interesting. Oh, this team needs no changes at all. Average gap 400, normal already there. Perfect. Yeah, this is a pull team, pull. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Pull. Pull. Also, I see ads are rolling, but no one's missing anything right now, so I'm just going to keep plowing through the changes. I'm actually glad D-Block said something about the microphone because I thought my microphone was fine, but if it's actually kind of low, that I can add that to the next thing on my list for like equipment to upgrade. All right, so that team is done. These first 4 teams go pretty fast because I don't have to edit anything in the top part of their profile. And then this is the spray team. Oh, no one's gonna send me more links or oh, that'd be awesome. No one has a decent budget set up. That's great. Okay, that team is done. So we're already done with the average league. All those teams are set now. Now we get into the gap power league where all the batters are gonna have 550 gap power. So 550 is the maximum. Now you can actually get higher in the base game, but you can't enter a number that's higher. Because I'll show you what'll happen. If you look at the view rating, this 50, if I change this to 550, right, it goes up to 60. If I change this to 550, it now goes up to 95 because you face more right-handed batters. But if I change this to 551 and this to 551, it goes down to 25 because if you enter anything above 550, it almost like it resets and goes back to the beginning. So you can't enter a number greater than 550. But if you start at 550 and player development and stuff causes you to go over 550, then this view rating will go high. So I mean, I kind of agree with how it's set up because it doesn't let you enter a number higher than that. But in some ways, I'm like, if you can go higher, like why not let players make the choice to go higher? So I don't know if it's intentional or if it's a bug, but I'm gonna do all the gap power ratings first, and then we'll come back down and do the tendencies for each team. Hey, Noel, the other thing I noticed about that computer that you found the Black Friday deal for me on is that it also comes with a keyboard and a mouse, so I don't have to go get another keyboard. So that was pretty cool. Because I started thinking about that because I do everything off laptops, and but then I realized that there's a keyboard included. Oh, most budget gaming PCs come with this now too. Awesome. I have no idea if it's a good keyboard or mouse, but it's better than the keyboard I would have had otherwise, which is no keyboard. That is a valid question, though. I don't know. And even though it was a budget gaming PC, from what I saw from the reviews and comparing it to some other things that are um, available now, it does seem like a really good deal, like pretty good performance for the price. So I'm pretty excited. Okay, so again, this is why we have this average league. Everyone is identical and average in this league, so that when we change one thing, that one thing we can kind of test what the impact of that is. Okay, so those are all done. Now I'm going to work my way back up and set the tendencies. Yeah, Nolan, since 90% of the time I'm using for OOTP and OBS, I think it'll be a huge difference. Especially like when I see the kinds of games like D Block is playing, like I'm sure the load on the system that OOTP puts on is minimal compared to some of those other games, especially from a graphics perspective. So I'm mostly excited to be able to get through a stream without like my audio cutting out or my system bogging down. That in itself will be a huge upgrade. And to be able to do pack pull streams, pack ripping streams without worrying about the pack pulling uh slowing down my system. Smiley Face Jane, welcome back in to the stream. Good seeing you. We're doing part two of last night's experiment, Smiley Face Jane. All right, so that was Gap Extreme Pull. Well, the Nationals. Now we go to the Braves. Now the Braves are easy because we don't have to change the tendencies at all. It's just the top part, just changing the gap power. Speaking of last night's stream, I always talk about how when we do one of these experiments, we usually learn quite a bit about the topic we're testing. But then there's always at least one thing that I learned that I'm not expecting. And the thing we learned last night is how different the all star rosters can be between the sub league that had all the power hitters and the sub league that had average power. The average league all star team had like 20 pitchers. The power league all star roster had like 7 pitchers. And so we're wondering what was driving that. And so now I want to do an experiment after we finish this polo ground cycle to test for that. Oh yeah, Fausto. Well, welcome to OTP. First of all, it's a great game. I hope you have a lot of fun playing it. There are there are kind of two ways at the highest level you can play OOTP. The first is Perfect Team, which is like the card collecting and online competitive version. And tonight, what we're in is what most people would call the base game or the historic simulation part of OOTP. And what I do in the base game is I mostly do lots of different experiments testing out how the game engine works. I also do in the base game simulations like theme simulations. So when when Willie Mays passed away, I added four different versions of Willie Mays to the 2023 New York Mets, who was the last franchise Willie Mays played for, to see how much better the Mets team could become. So I'll do stuff like that. Um, and then the other thing we do in the base game is we play community games where different members of the community can redeem channel points to play one of the many games that I've created for the base game. So one of the most popular is Create a Roster, where we use a creation engine to create players for the contestants to choose from and try to put the best roster available. And we run them through the 2023 season. There's also a low ball version of that where we try to make the worst team possible. And then there's a dead ball version, which is played in 1910. And then I have these other games. This list needs work because I've added a game to it and I've tweaked some of these. But the most popular here is probably Force 4 Trades, where um, you can take your favorite team or any team you want, and you can make four teams in the league trade whatever player you want to your team. So yeah, we just kind of mess around in the base game of OTP. And then Nolan, who's in the chat, he streams a 1979 Mariners save. So he started with the 1979 Mariners and is acting as the GM and the manager and making trades and trying to improve that team over time. Ezra Denny, who rated into us, he's now in 1960 with his San Francisco Giants save. So there's lots of different ways you can play. And then for what I do, I go into editor a lot, which is you can go in and you can basically change anything you want to about any player in the game. So one of the things I do in every version of OOTP is so this is the gap pull team. Is I go ahead into the most recent full season of in the database. So for this version, it would be 2023, and I go ahead and put myself and all my friends, like my little league teammates, my high school baseball teammates, my college softball teammates. I put us all into the game, and I eventually get us all onto the Mets and see how well we can do. And you can do all that stuff using editor. Right? So you can change players' names, heights, weights, injury proneness, batting attributes, fielding attributes, running, all kinds of stuff. So, in addition to the database having every player, I think in Major League history, um, you can also then edit them, change them. Yeah, and then what Nolan's talking about in the chat there is the perfect team version, which I alluded to earlier, which is kind of like the card collecting competitive version where we play against each other. And I do that too. And you'll hear us talk about a lot about like cards in the game and um There's an upcoming tournament that's like the tournament of the top monthly players are all invited to tournaments of different levels. In fact, we have earlier in the chat, we have a perfect team celebrity, Smiley Face Jane. Oh, jumping into the chat even. Yeah, perfect team. I didn't play perfect team until this time last year. And then I was instantly hooked, and I've been playing it pretty obsessively ever since. But there are plenty of other streamers who stream perfect team. And so I've decided to focus on base game streaming for the most part. I do use OTP Go Nolan mostly to sign up for tournaments. Um, it's a it's a it's a big part of my weekends because I'll be at my kids' soccer games and I need to, sign up for tournaments as they open up during the day. Yeah, Sci-Fi Shane, I agree on that. Let's give Laptop Hound a shout out. Yeah, Laptop Hound. Not only is Laptop Hound really good at showing people who are new to Perfect Team how the game works, um, he's also super entertaining and fun to watch. And he's very knowledgeable, especially on the lower levels of the game. So, like the iron, bronze, silver levels. So, all the tournaments are in different tiers based on the tiers of the cards. And he's a super good way to get introduced to the game. Okay, so I think that's okay. So all the gap powers are done. Now I have to update their pull tendencies. In fact, a lot of the experiments I do are inspired by things that we run into in Perfect Team. So a question will come up in Perfect Team like, which pitching attribute is the most important, or um, something like that. And so then I'll do a test to see, okay, well, if we max out individual pitching attributes, which one is the most helpful to helping your team, score the most runs? Oh, that's right. Yeah, D Block. Thank you for the reminder. Laptop Hound has a bunch of YouTube videos on uh, how to play the game. Nolan says guilty of using OTP Go to draft perfect team at work. I find drafting in Go to be very difficult because of the way I like to draft. Um, so I tend to just use it for signups. And when I say the way I like to draft, I like to use this lineup function. I like to let the AI set my lineup, and then I go to the graphical depth chart to look for where my gaps are. And so I my memory is not good enough to kind of keep track of all the positions I've filled and not filled. So and Go is not really good at that. So okay, so that gap pull team is done. That was the Phillies. Oh, we only have one more team left to go, and then we're ready to start the sim. Awesome. Also, Fausto, one of the things you'll find is the community is super supportive of new players. So if you go into any chat and ask questions, um, no one actually people will appreciate it because I think a lot of people are probably also wondering the same things you are, and the streamers are very gracious about answering those questions. Foster's friend plays perfect team at work. All right, so we'll do the gap power first here. I mean, I guess I technically sometimes do drafts and stuff at work because I'm my own boss. So I will just decide that it is time for a perfect team draft break. Oh, that's great, Play pitching. One of the guys in uh I guess the four Tite was Evan Meek. That would be a perfect name for this league. Always on the lookout for new names for the league. Speaking of, here's Shooter McGavin, named by Max LP80. And D Block, are you still doing lower level roster building streams? Oh, D Block was just answering another question right at the same time I asked if he was in the stream. Yes, being my own boss can be stressful. That is true. So, Fausto, the other person, if you are interested in starting up in Perfect Team, is so don't cut the D Block Dragon, who we all refer to as D Block. He is also one of the best streamers for, especially for lower level. When I started, it was D Block and Laptop Hound, who I watched the most to learn mostly about Perfect Team and especially the lower levels, which are a little easier to get into because the cards are less expensive. And when we say expensive, we mean in-game currency, not actual money. You use in-game currency to buy these cards. But the lower levels are a little more accessible. We won't get into what the combinators have done to the accessibility for newer players, but I still think the lower levels are the most accessible for new players. So yeah, so D Block will be building rosters for the big tournaments coming up this weekend. So I highly recommend you watch that. He's also a super entertaining streamer and very knowledgeable about those levels of cards. And so I think if you watch Laptop Hound and D Block, don't cut the D Block Dragon, you'll learn enough to get started and have a fighting chance in those tournaments. And it's not. I talk about tournaments. It's not just tournaments. You also have a league team that plays an entire season in a week against other players, and that can be fun too. I find that those leagues are more fun if you have a theme team or two. And EVC and NYC2 is the one who runs those theme teams. So basically, it's like instead of just using any card, you come up with a theme for your team and only use cards from that theme. So it could be like your favorite major league franchise, or it could be like I have a team that's all players whose names have been mispronounced by other streamers. Um, I think D Block had a team that was all players who went on later to be announcers or um, on TV and movies. So that's a fun theme. Sorry, this is Spray Spray. Oh yeah, of course, D Block. I'm always happy to promote your stream. You did a ton for me getting smart on this game when I first started, and I'll always appreciate that. And D Block puts on a super entertaining stream too. So yes, Johnny Dick Shot and Connie Richter, right? So I knew a lot about historic baseball because I used to read the baseball encyclopedia as a kid, and I had a couple of books about like MVPs and uh, and kind of like older time baseball players that but I did not know about Johnny Dickshot until I played Perfect Team. Also amazing that Johnny Dickshot, with the name he had, still had a nickname. You would think someone named Johnny Dickshot would not need a nickname, but he did have one. All right, I think the teams are set. Let me give this a save here. So I don't know if Fausto's still around, but one thing you'll notice is this is a league that I've set up specifically for running experiments. There's only 8 teams in it. There's no interleague play, so we can actually run 2 experiments at a time in the AL and the NL. And all the players are completely average and identical so that we can test like one thing at a time and only change that one thing and see what the impact on the game is. So I'm going to change the mailbox settings because we need some inputs from the mail or from the news. Make those changes here. Oh, Kitty Poo Poo's your friend. Yeah, Kitty Poo Poo's awesome. Kitty's in here sometimes. So I see Kitty Poo Poo in the daytime streams all the time. Yeah. Yeah, Kitty Poo Poo is awesome. Great member of the community. Okay, I think we're set up now. Um, so we're gonna do our usual thing here, which is I'm gonna add roll 3 minutes of ads. This is your 3 minute warning to do your pack giveaway forms. Now, Fausto, if you already have your PT account and you can participate in the pack giveaway and maybe win some packs tonight. So we'll run 3 minutes of ads. It'll help me get ready for the sim. It'll make sure we don't get interrupted. The sim won't get interrupted by ads. And everyone else, this is your countdown for closing the form. All right, see you in a few minutes. All right, looks like we're back from the ad break. Kayaking Santa, I see your notes. I see that you're done. Thank you for letting me know. If anyone else is working on their form, give me a heads up. I'll make sure I don't close it on you before you can finish. But before we do that, let's just go back real quick to go over what we're doing tonight. Right, last night we tested the theory that we hear sometimes during roster building streams or just in general in OOTP Twitch that if you're playing in the polo grounds, you want to have pole hitters to take advantage of um, the short porches down the lines, which did appear to have some validity to it. It wasn't a huge increase, but it was an increase. Now we're testing another thing that we've heard, which is that if you're playing in the polo grounds, and I think this was more for dead ball, but we're going to test it both in 2023 and in the dead ball era. And that theory is that if you have gap hitters who are pull hitters, they will become home run hitters because essentially you're hitting a double down the line. The line is so short that it ends up being a home run. And so we're testing to see if the game has been coded that way or not. And then we'll test the same things in 1910 down the road, probably post PTCS. Oh, and I realized I've been talking about this slide and I haven't been showing you the slide. Here's the slide. Right, so pull hitters taking advantage of this really short 277 to I think it's 250 plus. What is that? 259. Right, taking advantage of these short porches down the line if you're pull hitters. Well, Diva, so the dimensions vary depending on the year. I pulled this from 1952. So there may be some, like this one doesn't even match up with this diagram because this diagram might not be from exactly 1952. This is what's in OOTP in the 1952 season if you do an export of the stadium. So we're going to go ahead and sim this out. Let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the guesses too on the form. So I'm going to close the form now. Again, continuing our trend of having some of the best pack giveaway odds in OOTP. We have 4 responses tonight. I'll hide the IDs until we get to the pack giveaway part at the very end, but we're just going to take a quick look to see what the guesses look like. Let me resize some columns before I put it up on the screen for you. Okay, I think this will fit like this. Let me take a look. Oh, it's still a little too wide. Let me change one more thing here. Okay, here we go. Here are the guesses. Which gap power team will hit the most home runs? There's definitely the expectation is pull. One person thinks extreme ground ball pull and fly ball pull will be the home run champ. The others think it's the pull team. Only 2 though think that the difference will be 5% or more uh, above the next place team. In the average league, it's a mix of extreme pull and pull. We have one more person guessing extreme pull than we did for the 550 gap league. And this time there's a little more consensus. 3 people think that the difference will be 5% or more. And this is a new team. Which gap power team will have the most doubles? And I thought this is interesting. Everyone's guessing the spray team. All right, we'll have to see how that goes. And then which gap power team will hit the fewest home runs? Normal, and then one for extreme pull. And then which average team will hit the fewest home runs? Um, spray, and then normal. And then the numerical guesses we'll save for after the sim. So now that the form's closed, we're going to go ahead and let me unpin the message. We're going to ask for the predictions. But before that, let me save the game. Predictions are only available after you finish the day. So you'll see predictions are being generated. And let's see. It's under Major League Reports, preseason preseason predictions. There it is. Okay, this is predicting that Extreme Pull is going to hit more home runs. And again, the reason I sound surprised is not because it doesn't make sense from a baseball perspective, but it means the developers coded that to come out this way, which is interesting. Okay, now in the high gap power league, that lead is not okay. So what's the lead up here? The lead is 180 to 174. These are both pole teams, right? And then it drops to 167. In the gap power, the numbers are not that much higher, but in this one, pole has a slight lead, and in a weird quirk, extreme pull is the lowest. Claydog says also suggests that the projections take ballpark dimensions into consideration, which is surprising. Unless it assumes all parks will have higher home runs for hole hitters. I think what it does, Clay, I think it just does a rapid simulation of the entire season, because if you move players around, that also gets reflected. I think it's taking into account all the factors, including ballpark factors and era factors. I think it's just basically running a simulation, or maybe like a bunch of simulations, like a Monte Carlo, and then publishing like the final outcomes. So okay. Also interesting though is why there's such a difference in stolen bases. Like, why is one team projected to steal 124 versus 96? And this one team's projected to steal 101. I don't know where that's coming from. That's interesting. But one thing I'm seeing here, though, is like 181 is the highest in the average, right? In the high gap, the 177. So to me, high gap pull is not necessarily leading to more home runs. Right. So that theory that gap hitters who are pull hitters in the polo grounds become power hitters, I'm not really seeing that. In fact, one thing we should have had is a question comparing the gap power league to the average league, and will there be a difference? I didn't ask that question, but I think these projections are showing that there probably is not going to be a big difference. But we'll test for it. Even though it's not a question in the pack giveaway, we'll still test for it. All right, let's go ahead and start the sim. Okay, we're not going to tell much from those first two games, so let's just go ahead and do a full month. April, you get a full month. March is just one or two games. Yes, my face, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just noise. The stolen bases are probably just noise. Okay, pull, and extreme pull, 1 and 2 in the AL. Extreme pull is number 1 in the NL, but pull is dead last. Again, there's a lot that goes into winning and losing games, which is why we no longer use standings as our way for measuring these things. We actually go and look in the batting attributes. Now, one huge difference I'm noticing right away is in the AL, where everyone's average, including the gap powers average, pull is way ahead of everyone else, 14 games ahead. Whereas in the high gap power league, only pull is 12 games behind. Everyone else is uh, kind of near the top. But it is extreme pull that is leading the neutral league, which is the gap power league. As we finish the month of June, uh, again, pull in the average league continues to pull away from the rest of the league. 17 games ahead of second place now. And in the gap power league, it is extreme pull in first place. Spray is right behind them, but pull is in dead last still. Well, wait, I went to August. I skipped the All Star break by mistake. Let's go back to. Oh man, we missed the All Star break. We missed the home run challenge. We still can go look at the All Star voting though. I think this is sometimes telling as far as do we see a particular team at the top of the voting across positions? So now this is in the average league where everyone still has average um, gap power. Yes, I swear Shooter McGavin is somehow good every time. All right, so spray, pull, normal, extreme pull, pull, spray. So I'm not seeing a big pattern there. And then in the neutral league, this is a gap power league. We see pull, spray, normal, spray, extreme pull, spray. If anything, spray might be a tiny bit overrepresented, but in general, I don't see like a big pattern there. Now, sometimes where it becomes more apparent is who gets chosen for the All Star game. So if we look at the batters, we see NN, PP, SS, PP, NN, PP, NN, XP, PP. So one thing I'll say is there are fewer sprays in the average league. So spray does seem underrepresented. And if we look at the standings, spray is second to last. Now extreme pull is also a little underrepresented, I guess. They're also dead last. Now in the gap power league, NNPP, SS, PP, XP, PP, SS. I don't know. It just seems pretty evenly split. All right. Let's see what happened in the All Star game. We can go back and check that. I guess I could have just used a calendar to do this, but here we go. Ooh, an extra inning thriller. The AL scored 2 in the top of the 10th. NL tried to come back, scored 1 in the bottom of the 10th, but the AL wins it 7-6. That means the team with average hitters beat the team with the high gap hitters. Now, it is a super small sample size, but I think we've also shown in other experiments that gap power is probably the least important of the batting attributes when you boost them to 550. So we're kind of seeing that here. Oops. Um, oh yeah, and Kaiki-san is lurking, but if he's still listening, I remembered why I didn't schedule a run environment experiment for this PTCS because once I uh because I think the run environment's 20, is it 2015? Yeah, because it's so close to modern, I didn't think that we would learn anything from it. Um so I think we'll just do pack rips on Thursday and then roster building on Friday. Yeah, Kakisena, I did see that. Spyface Shane mentioned it last night in the stream, and it is pretty cool. So yeah, so I think because it's so modern, we don't really need to do an experiment. I think people kind of have a feel for what that's going to be like just from playing um, modern setting tournaments. Oh, Spy Fishing, we're a bunch of nerds in here. Of course, we're going to like a spreadsheet. All right, so let's run the month of August here. Now, I am glad we don't use standings anymore to determine whether an attribute is important or not, because I would be hard pressed to explain these standings. But when we do go into the batting stats, I do think things like this tend to resolve themselves. There are just so many other variables that can go into winning or losing games that. But in the AL, right? So we see that pull is still 20 games ahead of the rest of the pack, and in the NL, it's extreme pull that is still leading the league. Okay, we've got the rest of the month. Let's just sim to the end of the regular season. All right, we have one game left to play. Let's go ahead and sim that. And then we're to the postseason. In the average league, pull does win 20 games ahead of everybody else. It is crazy that everyone else is exactly 20 games behind. I guess we're gonna are we gonna have to play we have to play an additional game or two to resolve this tiebreak here. And in the Gap Power League, it is extreme pull that leads the league, but the other teams are 3 and 4 games behind. I don't consider that, you know, a significant enough a difference to be definitive. So I think we're gonna have to wait to look at the batting stats to learn more about what's going on here. So let's see. We're gonna sim a day. So it looks like what are these teams? That's Oakland. What's this team? Oh, the Rangers. The Rangers and Oakland played against each other, and the Rangers won. So now it looks like they're going to make Texas play against the Angels. Okay, yeah. So now we know who's. So Texas is going to the postseason. So if the Angels had won, would they have gone to yet another game? I guess they would have. That was pretty interesting. All right, so we should be able to now see a playoff tree. Hey, Nolan, that is pretty impressive. You won a round in late night mixed bag without a shortstop. Now, so you didn't have a shortstop, but the AI assigned someone to play shortstop, right? Was it an actual player or was it a gym unknown playing shortstop for you? Even a real player playing out of position at shortstop is pretty impressive to win with. But I'm just kind of curious to know if it was a gym unknown or not. Oh, did you not finish your draft? Oh yeah, yeah. If you didn't have a shortstop, then it puts a position player. But if you don't have enough players, then it would put a gym unknown in. That's extra impressive then, because you might have had, if you had a full roster, you might have had like Babe Ruth playing shortstop. At least you have the bat in the lineup. Oh wait, so did you have a full roster or did you only have 8 batters? If you had a full roster, it'll put a batter in at shortstop, but they'll be 0 rated at shortstop. So you'll have a terrible shortstop, but at least they'll be able to hit still. Okay. Still pretty impressive. All right, so let's see what happens in the playoffs here. We have extreme pull average playing against pull average. And then we have spray average playing against extreme pull. Oh, sorry. Spray gap against extreme pull gap. And it is the extreme pull teams make it to the World Series. It is small sample size, but I do enjoy that symmetry. Yeah, so Nolan, that's why some people say if you get towards the end of a draft and you don't have, like, let's say a catcher, you might be better off just getting no catchers because then it'll keep putting position players in a catcher. But if you have one catcher, it'll play that one catcher until they have no stamina. And so, arguably, it's better to have like Babe Ruth with stamina catching versus like your catcher with 0% stamina catching. I don't know where that all nets out, but that's one of the theories out there. Seems like something we should test. Nets out as a loss, says Guy Santa. All right, let's sim the World Series. Okay, this is why you can't trust the small sample size of the playoffs because the average gap team beat the gap power team. Now, if I were to say to you, who would win, a team where everyone's like totally average or a team where everyone's totally average but has god gap power? Right? If the only difference is something that's supposed to be helpful, you wouldn't think there's any way the average team should beat the gap power team, but they did. Now, granted, it was 4-3 and it's a super small sample size, but things like that can happen. That's RNG for you. All right, let's do the postseason awards, then we'll look at the stats, and then we can give away some packs. Let's go to the mailbox for that. Hold on, I'm gonna have to read this. Isadafo and Charles said that you go into negative stamina. It is not shown, but there is supposed to be a difference to a catcher who just got to 0% and one who already had a game with 0% in 24. Oh, that's interesting. But that means if negative stamina is possible, then that would support that would that would be a point, a check mark in the column of maybe you're better off not having any catchers versus just one catcher. I think the negative stamina makes sense too because I think it takes longer to recover if you play more games at 0% than if you just got to 0%. So I do think that sounds correct. Okay, where are we looking for? Oh yeah, we're doing postseason awards. So let's save the game so we have the results saved. And we are going to Great Glove Awards. That should be completely random. Let's just take a look though. Is any team overrepresented? If it is, it's probably just RNG, but Pull has one. Oh no, that's Extreme Pull. Extreme Pull has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has half of the gold gloves. It has more than half of the gold gloves. That's interesting. I don't know what it means, and it probably is still just RNG, but that is interesting. And in the average league, I don't see anyone overrepresented in the average league. Okay, next up, reliever of the year. In the average league, it is a spray closer, 31 saves, 229 ERA. In the Gap Power League, it is an extreme pull closer, 31 saves, 2.39 ERA. Platinum Stick Awards. Now, this potentially would tell you something if there is an overrepresentation here. In the average league, I don't see anyone really overrepresented. In the Gap Power League, though, Spray has 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 9. So they're definitely overrepresented. There are no rookies of the year. Cy Young Award. The winner is from normal. Then spray, pull, normal, pull. So it's not seeing a pattern there. And then in the Gap Power League, pull, spray, normal, extreme, pull, extreme, pull, spray. All I see is that normal is underrepresented. That might be something. Yeah, I think a lot of what Charles and Isadafa do, some of the things they do is kind of similar to what we do, but they do it through the modeling in the modeling game. I do it through experimenting in the base game. So I'm not surprised if we end up with a lot of the same conclusions. All right, let's now go to MVP award. In the average league, pull, extreme pull, spray, pull, Pull, normal, normal. Yeah, I'm not really seeing any overrepresentation there. In the average league, hey, Bobby Vanilla making a showing, number 2 in MVP voting. I mean, if I were to notice something, it's probably that normal does a little bit better in the average league than in the Gap Power League. And then start looking at some stats. Before we look at the team stats, let's look at individual stats to see if we notice any patterns. Look at the average league first. So in terms of home runs, you have Spray number 1, but not appearing again until number 8. Everyone's packed in pretty closely, 23 to 18, so I'm not really seeing anything there. In the Gap Power League, same kind of 23 to 18. Now, I will say normal is overrepresented. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over half of the top 8 is normal. The interesting thing here, though, is the range of the top 8 is 23 to 18 in the Gap Power League, and it's 23 to 18, and it's 23 to 18 in the average league. Oh, Kaki Santa wants to rename a player. Okay, Kaki Santa, I want to ask you to hold that though, because it's best to do those when we're first opening the quick save. So you can choose. You can either give me the name now, and I'll put it in one of my notepads, so we'll have it, or you can hold it till the next time we're using the quick save. I like that Kayaking Sand is getting in the name game too. That's awesome. You'll DM me in Discord. Perfect. I'll try to not do the renaming though until it's the night when you're in the chat, because um, I want to make sure you get to see it happen and be part of it. So, but to me, this means, one of the things that we're testing for is this notion that, um, let me put it back up here. Right, there's a theory that high gap and pull will become a home run in the Polo Grounds because of the shape of the stadium. And what I'm seeing here is whether your average gap power or 550, which is, remember, 550 is God level. It's beyond Barry Bonds' eye. It's beyond Barry Bonds' power. It's it's past that. And you have that much gap power, it doesn't seem to matter. The home runs are the same. 23 to 18 in the gap power league, 23 to 18 in the average power league. Now, the other thing I want to look at was doubles. In the average gap power league, your doubles are 31 to 27. And in the gap power league, they're 67 to 51. So the gap power is definitely there. But what's not there is there's no difference in home run power. You can have God level gap power, it's not giving you more home runs than the Polo Grounds. Okay, I can rename one of the players in your creator roster. All right. So yeah, so that's interesting. I think we could now for dead ball. It might be a different story. I'm still holding judgment on dead ball. It could be possible dead ball, but my thing is if it's not happening in the modern era, I just think that calculation is not in the game. And so if that calculation is not in the game, I don't think it'll matter in dead ball. But let's wait and see, because dead ball is a whole different ball of wax. All right, before we go look at the team stats, let's go back and get the pack giveaway form ready. Oh, D Block, I don't know that gap power doesn't matter depending on the stadium, but the Polo Grounds is specifically brought up by streamers in streams, and I apologize, I can't remember who said what, but I've heard it mentioned more than once that in the Polo Grounds, people are looking for gap power pull hitters because those will become home runs. And I think there's no greater example of a ballpark encouraging home runs than the 279 and 259 down the line in the Polo Grounds. If you're a pull gap hitter and you don't get more home runs in the Polo Grounds, I don't think you'll get more home runs in another stadium. And also, D Block, you might have missed it last night. I was talking about in um, one of the things I learned on the forums is you can change the dimensions in the stadium all you want, but unless you change the ballpark factors, you won't see any difference in performance. So apparently the distances are just um, for the graphics, and that the ballpark factors are what actually change. Um, Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to test that. I'm going to test that by changing the distances in the game without changing the factors and see if there's any change in the performance. Now, in the forums, one of the people had posted a calculator that someone had made where if you type in your ballpark dimensions, it'll give you the relative ballpark factors that you might want to use. But yeah, but all the ballpark factors, I think they're just statistically calculated based on what happens in the stadium. But yeah, but they're not based on the distances. But that's another thing that I'm going to test coming out of the research for this experiment. All right, let's get ready to give away some packs. I'm going to go ahead and unhide the Twitch names from our from the guesses. Okay, let's put that up here. Let me shrink down these columns a little bit more to fit them all on here. Okay. Let me put my standings up here. Oh, no, wait. We didn't look at the team stats. That's what we're going to do. Okay. In the atmosphere. Oh, I just heard a noise. What just happened? Oh, Kaku Santa redeeming 2 more names. All right, 3 names total incoming from Kayaking Santa. That's awesome. I'm glad we have another person embracing the the quick save names. All right. You know, if you're around Thursday when I do the pack ripping, that would be a good thing to do at the start of that stream. Is we'll go ahead and do the quick save update, and then we'll go into the pack ripping. And we do have a pack giveaway game for the pack ripping. So if you do show up on Thursday, you'll get your drops, and you can still win packs. Guessing the game we play on my pack ripping streams is I call it last licks. You're trying to guess the last diamond, perfect, or combi card that will be ripped. So you're trying to guess what level will be diamond, perfect, or combi. Will it be live or historic? Will it be a position player or a pitcher? And then the tiebreaker is what's the what's the number, the card value, and then there's a final tiebreaker, which is like what's the, I think it's the control I number, the overall control I. But that means the winner can change right up to the last pack, because if there's a combi, diamond, or perfect in that last pack, then the leader will change. So that's how we give away packs on my stream on pack ripping days. But yeah, Kakisena, if you think you'll be there on Thursday, let me know, and then we'll start Thursday's stream by introducing your new players. A fourth player. That's awesome. So for Kayaking Santa, and for anyone who's not familiar with because our league is all average players, the names have kind of started to follow that theme. They haven't all been that way. Initially, it was just like the names people thought were funny or interesting, but they ended up being names like Bobby Vanilla, Curtis Blanderson. Those are a couple of the favorites. So there's a lot of those names. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you send in, Kayaking Santa. Okay. On the average league, no one jumps out as being higher in home runs, but Spray Spray is lower in home runs. So that's interesting. Now, in the gap power league, where everyone has huge gap power, the home run leader here is at 185, which is normal. But the other team, two of the teams are actually below the lowest home run total in the average league. So I don't think there's anything here that shows gap power, pull or not, turns into home runs in a stadium like the Polo Grounds that has the really short fences. So I do feel like, yeah, so I feel saying you're right. The spray being the lowest across the board is the only consistency. Yeah. And the fact that that's consistent is the only thing leading me to even think there still might be any kind of correlation between gap power and home run. The fact that spray and gap, well, no, you know what, it doesn't, because high gap power still doesn't get you more home runs. So because the high gap power spray is lower than the average gap power spray in home runs. So I feel pretty comfortable saying that gap power does not turn into home runs no matter what your ballpark dimensions are, or no matter what your ballpark factors are. And I think that makes sense because when you look at the ballpark factors, it's just VL home run, VR home run. And so it doesn't seem to be taking into account like down the line versus, dead center field home run factors. It's just home run factors or not home run factors. Now, those are, I'm sure, applied to the ballpark factors, but that means that the kind of the shape of the ballpark factors around the outfield are going to be just scaled up or down based on that multiplier, not by anything else that might have to do with gap power or pulling or not pulling. So I feel pretty comfortable saying like we've debunked that theory that pull gap power in the Polo Grounds could lead to more home runs. Now that said, I'm reserving judgment for dead ball because that might be a different setup. So we'll see what that looks like. But with that done, let's go look at the guesses here. For participants, I appreciate all of you taking part. Which gap power team will hit the most home runs? And that was team normal. No one guessed normal. So we'll move on to the next question. Now, normal did hit more home runs, but it was only 8 home runs more. Now, just to make sure, I will pull up my calculator and do 185 divided by 177. And it is 4.5%. So it is not above our threshold. So that means Smiley Face Jane and Kayaking Santa are leaders. Which average Yeah, we're not going to make it to the tie-breaking numbers, but I'm still going to look at the tie-breaking numbers because I'm always impressed at how well everyone guesses. Which average sub-league team will hit the most home runs? Average sub-league team that led the home runs. Normal. No one guessed that. And it was definitely less than 5%. It was only 3 home runs over 180 home runs. So that means Smiley Face Jane, congratulations. And Kai Cassandra, you still get 3 packs. Now, this one I was interested in. Which gap power sub-league team will hit the most doubles? And everyone guessed the completely wrong answer. Oh, no, wait. That was for home runs. For doubles, you guys were all absolutely correct. Everyone was absolutely right on this. I'm going to pull it back up because we were so busy looking at home runs. You, I don't know. I'm curious to hear your logic on this, but you're all absolutely right. If you look at doubles, Spray hit 565. Everyone else hit almost the exact same number. 523, 522, 522. How you all knew Spray was going to hit 40 more doubles is beyond me. Does anyone in chat want to explain how you knew that? Because to me, that's awesome. Because that's an 8% difference. So, logic, polo field, spray ball around, more doubles. Smiley Face Jane, mostly associated with spray hitters with doubles. No logic beyond that. Clay Dog, we're part of a secret club that gets together an hour before your stream to discuss how to make you feel dumb. That's awesome. Use both sides equals more doubles. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if spray means you end up hitting more to left center field than right center field, that is a ton of real estate in the polo ground, so that would make sense. He said first rule. But man, I am so impressed that you guys nailed that. That is awesome. All right, which gap power sub league team will hit the fewest home runs? And that was Spray by quite a margin. And no one guessed that. No one guessed Spray. So we'll continue on. I mean, we already know the winners, but which average league team will hit the fewest home runs? And that was Spray. And only D Block got that. Congratulations, D Block, on that. All right, let's get into the numericals now. Okay, how many home runs by the gap power league leader in home runs? It was the same in both leagues. It was 23. And so that would be Smiley Face Jane. The average league leader in home runs, also 23. Also Smiley Face Jane. And then how many doubles? Oh, that's interesting. Doubles by the gap. 67 doubles. Smiley Face Jane almost on the dot with a very nice guess of 69. 2 away. Okay, can I just mention this domination here? Wow. Oh, was Bobby Vanilla on the leaderboard? We got to see that. Yeah, Bobby Vanilla. There he is, popping in there at number 8. Bobby Vanilla, I came up earlier too. Why was Bobby Vanilla mentioned earlier? Oh yeah, uh, number 3 in average, and someone somewhere else. He was on the leaderboards during the season. That's why I noticed his name. Second in. Oh yeah, let's see. War. Wait, where's War? Oh, there he is. Oh, wait a second. Am I looking in the wrong league? No, that's right, right? Yeah, no, that's the right league. Yeah, 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 yeah. There he is. War. He's on the war list, 3.2. But I remembered him from the leaderboards during the simulation on the side. Yeah, Bobby Vanilla coming through big time. All right, so Smiley Face Jane, first place. Congratulations. 7 packs headed your way. Hacking Santa, second place. 3 packs headed your way. So yeah, I think before I even do the Polo Grounds version of these tests, because I do still want to do those. I do think the era could have some sort of difference. I do want to test the thing D Block was asking about, which is starting in the average league with the completely neutral stadiums, moving the fences all the way out, moving the fences all the way in, and then leaving the fences where they are, but then changing the factors. I think obviously changing the factors is going to change things. I just want to show that moving the fences in or out without changing the factors doesn't change anything. It's it's kind of a no-brainer experiment, but I still like D Block. I find it hard to believe that that's how it works, but we will test it just to make sure. I'll have to get creative on the tiebreakers for that though, because I think all the guesses are going to be the same for the non-numerical stuff. But we will do that. Oh, that's interesting. All the home runs were inside the park. That's amazing. Yeah, so maybe we don't even do an experiment if Smiley Face Jane has already done it for us. Like D Block, I was just incredulous that that's how it worked. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense because the modifiers probably come from the stadium data and not just from the distances of the fences. Because the field is so big, all the animations took some time. That's incredible. So you have players running like 800 feet to go get a ball? That's amazing. That's actually though like a lot of our little league stadium fields, unless we got to play in the actual um the main field that had the lights and the fences. I mean, you could run all day because you hit a fly ball, and if it got over the outfielder's head, there was nothing to stop it. You just don't expect that from a major league stadium. That's awesome. All right, so yeah, coming up this week, Wednesday I'm off as normal. Thursday I'll be doing a pack ripping stream with pack giveaways, trying to get some good cards for PTCS, and then I'll do roster building on Friday, and then on Saturday we have Flying WV is playing create a roster. Now I do have a Friday afternoon stream, and I have a I've asked EVC if he wants to try to take over the leaderboard for lowball too. So we'll see what he says. I also have an open invitation to Nicolino to play any of our games. So I might remind him if he's available Friday. Maybe we'll try to get Nicolino in. Um, but yeah, I'm still looking. And also, I might invite Dr. D if he wants to stick around after his stream on Friday. Um, so that's kind of what the rest of the week looks like. I don't know what the post PTCS schedule looks like yet, but if anyone wants to, if anyone has a point redemption that's outstanding and wants to play it on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, let me know. Nolan, you just redeemed one, so we can discuss the timing of that one too. Um, yeah, we can do Sunday. Just do me a favor and tell me in Discord because I will forget, and then Discord is the way I remind myself what's going on. So that would be very helpful. All right, so I think we're good here. Let's go ahead and put the title slide back up. But I appreciate you all hanging out. I hope you had a good time. We haven't done experiments in a while, and back-to-back experiments for me was really fun to kind of get back into that. Oh yeah, so I forget, you were gonna be my Friday afternoon backup if you still want to do that. We can do it would be at I think 4 p.m. Pacific time. Um if EVC and Nicolino aren't available to do it. We can definitely do yours Friday afternoon if you want. Yeah, you had said you didn't mind being the backup, which was super helpful to me. So why don't we say this, my face Jane, by the time I stream Thursday, if we don't have any takers, it'll be you taking that Friday afternoon spot. So we can just discuss it in the chat on Thursday, or I can reach out to you earlier on the day Thursday, so it's not so last minute. So yeah, I appreciate you all hanging out when we do some experiments. We haven't done them in a while, and it was good to kind of get back to our roots in that way. Oh, so I've been saying this. You're gonna do the minor. So one of the games that I have now is called Major League Farm Team. I did demo it in the stream I think last week before Thanksgiving, right? I think it was. Let me see. Yeah, I tested out episode 174. And what you do is whatever team you take, you can pick any other major league team from that season and turn them into your farm team. You can take 6 players from their team and send down 6 players from your team. It went well. Geez, I can't remember whose team I rated. But it was the 93 Mets, and I think I rated the 93 Phillies. Um, yeah, but it was fun. It's always fun, just like stripping another team for parts. And I did think if I ever did it again, I'd want to do the Yankees just so I could nerf the Yankees at the same time I'm boosting my team. Um, but yeah, it's a super fun one. It's based on how my friends and I used to play Stratomatic, and so for me, it's like very nostalgic too. But yeah, Smiley Face Jane is going to play Major League Farm Team maybe on Friday. Uh, the other thing I want to do, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, if no one wants to play a game, is I want to revisit the streamer team because there's a bunch of us in the short season minors whose batting attributes have finally gone above one. So, in case anyone wasn't around for that, when I imported a bunch of us as our favorite major league players as 18-year-olds, a lot of us didn't have uh, profiles in the database yet at that age. And so the game did this weird thing where it sets your avoid K to 600, which is off scale above the charts, but all other batting attributes were set to one. And I think it was Smiley Face Jane jokingly said that, like, well, that's because, you've never struck out. And I actually think that might be true. Like, you've never struck out, so your avoid K is 600, but you've never gotten a hit, a walk, or a home run, so everything else is a one. Well, eventually, the ratings did start coming up above one. They're still not playable at a major level, but yeah, I actually think that it's what's happening, which is kind of amazing. Um, and so, what I'm curious to see is, like, do they continue to progress? What level will the AI put them in? Will they still be in short season? And so, I do want to revisit that save. We finished the first season. We didn't do all the off season stuff yet. And when I start the next season, I'm going to wait 11 days before calling up our AAA pitchers because they definitely deserve to be promoted. But I'm also going to show people how to do service time manipulation, which in real life baseball I'm completely opposed to. I think it's teams run by billionaires taking advantage of young major leaguers just starting out their careers. But in the game setting, I think it's really important to understand how service time works, how your first 6 years of player control work, and how you can extend that to 7 years. And so I will show how to do that in that save. But I mostly want to see how our very young minor leaguers in the short season league last year continue to develop. So I'll do that one of the nights where we don't have a taker for a community game. Yes, so I think it totally makes sense based on how it works, but it also I just think the game should have a better engine for extrapolating players before their playing days and after their playing days, and not just like automatically nerf them when they're done or before they had a card. Um, Also, doing these experiments the last 2 nights has caused me to reflect a bit on how much this stream has changed from when I started. When I started, it was all I was doing was taking the 86 Mets and playing them in different seasons. Oh, no one thinks it was addressed in the latest patch. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, and then I started doing more like how does the base game work experiments. And then I don't actually know how it happened. It just happened pretty organically. I think I introduced Force 4 trades and then I introduced Creator Roster. And now like, we do so much of that and it's so much fun. Uh, that I'm glad those things have caught on. I'm glad you all are interested in saving up channel points and redeeming them to play. Um, I'm actually super glad that that's become at least half, if not more, of what we do in the stream. Because it still, scratches that itch in terms of like using editor and understanding how the base game works. But it's just a lot more fun playing those community games and seeing everyone try to chase EBC in Creator Roster and then trying all these other games that it's just how I used to play OOTP, and now it's fun kind of sharing that with everybody. Well, thanks for being here tonight. Hope you all had fun. We'll look forward to Pack Rips Thursday, maybe Smiley Face Jane or someone else doing a creator roster on Friday. Friday night, we'll do PTCS roster building, and then we'll see Flying WV on Saturday. All right, we're going to raid into Ophi tonight, I think. Last night, unexpected treat, we got to raid into. Let me give her a shout out. We got to raid into Emmy Melodies, who is an Australian piano player singer, who I just think is super fun to watch and really talented. Has some originals that I really like too. And I think she only streams like 2 nights a week, so it was kind of lucky to catch her. And then tonight we'll raid into Ophi, who we more regularly raid into. And amazingly, Midnight Sumo is not streaming right now. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, Ophi and Stitch is somewhere I like to hang out while I finish up my drafts after streaming. So we'll take you over there. All right. Thanks again, everybody. See you next time. See you hopefully Thursday night.